I want to turn now to Ed O'Keefe. He's a national political reporter at the Washington Post. He's joining me here in Washington. Hey, Ed.
Good to see you. Welcome to D.C.
Yeah, thanks so much. So before we even get into all the things that we can talk about, just when you hear some of the things that Tony's reporting there, the protests that we expect to see in the coming days here in Washington, D.C., what is your sense of that? I mean, you know, is there an end game here for some of these protesters, or is it just so that their voices are heard, and as Tony points out, that they fall in line with John Lewis's position?
Well, I think for a lot of people, they do want to sort of blow steam and make it clear that they're not supportive of the new president, and certainly polling this week has shown that a majority of the country still has issues with him. And so I think there's a lot of people who feel the need to either be here in Washington or do something where they live to point out that they don't necessarily agree with the guy that's taking over on Friday afternoon, and they want to say their piece. But I think there are a lot of groups, including, frankly, the Democratic Party and the outgoing president, who hope that a lot of this activism will actually compel people to remain active and to keep putting pressure on their lawmakers, on their local officials, to go maybe run for office themselves, and certainly participate in upcoming elections in odd number and even number years. I think there are a lot of groups hoping that sort of momentum continues, and it maybe sparks a new level of activism and awareness among a lot of Americans.
And as far as tomorrow goes, the inauguration, I mean, Donald Trump has a unique moment just in the way that he did after he won the election, election night, to talk about bringing the country together. What are you expecting tomorrow from him? So
we know it'll be a roughly 20-minute speech. His team claims that he's been writing it all by himself, despite the disposal of speechwriters. And, you know, if he keeps with recent history and tradition, he will try to give some kind of unifying, we're all in this together, I am your president message. Whether that is accepted by people, I think, remains to be seen, given that, yes, he did sort of cast a unifying message on election night, and then has spent the months since, you know, still trying to set old scores, calling out people who don't agree with him or appreciate him or aren't happy about the fact that he's about to become president. So I think not only will the speech matter so much as really what does he do in the first few days of his presidency. Remember, he vowed to undo a lot of Obama-era policies. How quickly does he do it, and which ones does he go after first?
What's interesting is that for those people that are protesting, I'm sure that the president-elect will have some message for them, perhaps not tomorrow at the inauguration, but at some point. But it's not just people that are protesting the president-elect that he's picked fights with. He's picked fight with the intelligence community, with Congressman John Lewis,
with people who will be with him on stage.
Who will be with him on stage tomorrow. I mean, what does that paradigm mean for you as a reporter here in D.C. going forward? How is it going to? How are you going to cover this?
It means it'll be really awkward watching them all on stage together, and I think the cutaway shots will matter more than ever because the reactions of people standing behind him. The former presidents will be here. The members of Congress who do show up. And his family and others who will be in the crowd closer to the stage. I think watching their reactions to all this will be critical. We know, President Carter will be here. George W. Bush, the Clintons are both coming. Watching all them behind stage, seeing this happen will be very interesting.
Let's talk about his cabinet picks. There's a lot of tough questioning all week long, but I want to draw your attention. It is now the least diverse cabinet since 1981. That was when Ronald Reagan was elected president, or the Ronald Reagan inauguration. And it is also the first cabinet not to include a Latino member since 1989. So you've got Ben Carson, he's been picked to be HUD, and you've got Elaine Chao for transportation, and one white woman, Betsy DeVos, and that's it. That's it as far as diversity. What do you make of that?
When other people would count the woman who will run the Small Business Administration, Linda McMahon. Some presidents consider that part of the cabinet, others don't. So you got 4 women, 1 black guy, the rest are all white guys. There are no Hispanics. It's been noted. It was somewhat expected that this would happen, given how he talked about and didn't really reach out to the Hispanic community over the course of his campaign.
Even though they helped elect him in significant numbers.
In some ways, they did. Certainly in Florida, they were a factor. But, we know that he considered at least a few people, especially for the agriculture secretary position, which was the last job, that went to Sonny Perdue. It looks like it will go to Sonny Perdue. I think more than anything, it adds to the concern that a lot of people have, not only here in Washington, but across the country, that this election doesn't necessarily reflect the will of a lot of people or the reality of the changing nature of the country. And yet, I've talked to a lot of Latino leaders in the last few weeks who said it's almost better that he didn't pick somebody to sort of be the token Latino in the cabinet, because the pressure on that person would be so great. And unless they had a really senior, important position, you know, it would clearly be seen by a lot of people as window dressing. So maybe it's better we were left off.
Interesting. Ed O'Keefe, always good to have you. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Welcome to D.C.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.